Welcome back to Safeco Field. Fans filing in, getting ready for Felix Hernandez and the Mariners. And our Players Cast taking on the Yankees in Game 2 of the 3-game set. It's an 8-game homestand. The Mariners 2-2 so far. And we've got a treat for you tonight. As we've told you, Felix Hernandez hopefully will rise to the occasion in his 23rd start against the Yankees, and number 24 in the house. Not just a statue, not that guy, although he's probably coming as well. But we've got the real 24, Ken Griffey Jr., in our booth. It's Players Cast. We've got 4 guys. I didn't think we could fit all 4 in the booth with the polos on. You look good. Mike Flowers, I'll give it to you for the introductions. Hello, gentlemen.
Brad, it's good to see you, and you're right. It's a little bit crowded, but I think that'll make it a lot of fun tonight. Obviously, we have an important game. Yeah, there you go. Throw some elbows early. This is an important game. We obviously have a lot of experience to break this one down tonight, but it's also going to be a lot of fun, tell some stories. But we have Dan Wilson, Dave Valley, and, of course, Ken Griffey Jr. here in the booth tonight to watch this game against the Yankees with Felix on the mound.
And the big question really is, what kind of food did you order for us? Because we're going to be up here in close quarters.
Whatever you want. I got it.
Okay. All right. You guys heard that. You heard that. He's going to handle it.
Well, Felix Hernandez on the mound, as we just said. Felix this year, average fastball at 89 miles an hour, plus curveball for him. Great changeup, as you know.
Felix in the longest win drought of his entire career. Since last June 30th, he's 0-7 with a 6.46.
Andrew McCutchen started the year with the Giants. Now with the Yankees leading things off. Hit a home run last night, a 2-run home run. Going into the last night's game, he was just 1 for 16 with the Yankees.
Now, I know some of you guys got traded. Willie, I don't think you got traded towards the end of your career.
And there it is, another home run for the Yankees. Yankees lead the American League in home runs. And for McCutchen, that's back-to-back games with a home run. It was a changeup maybe up in the zone. And McCutchen able to barrel it up.
Pitch up in the zone for McCutchen. Really pulls his hands in. It's that pitch. It was up above the belt, inside corner, but see him pull his hands, get the barrel to it, and launches that ball a long way down the pole. One of the things we talked about with Felix is limiting home runs. The Yankees hit a lot of home runs, so keeping the ball down tonight is going to be very key for him. That pitch up in the zone, McCutchen was able to get to it, but keeping that movement down in the zone is going to be a big key for Felix.
Yeah, this is what you want to see, a lot of ground ball, him on the mound.
I think the key for Felix is to be able to induce some of that soft contact, get these guys swinging the bat. So one thing about the Yankees, though, that has really surprised me with all the power that they have, that was their 231st home run. They're on pace, actually, to beat your guys' record back in 1997 when you guys hit 264 as a team, which is pretty impressive, is the fact that they're such good at controlling the strike zone. I mean, they don't chase a lot of pitches outside of the zone, even though they have tremendous power.
Which I think is a little bit unusual, because typically you think of the Yankees as a lot of veteran players, but that is not the case. They've had some injuries, and they have a lot of young guys in their lineup still hitting for that type of power, but controlling the zone is a little bit unique when you look at the age of the guys in their lineup. There's a changeup from Felix. That will be an important pitch for him, along with his curveball.
Lou, I know you watched his last game. It seemed like he was trying to use his fastball a little bit more. When he ended up giving up 4 runs to the A's in those 5 innings, but for Felix, he's started to throw the curveball more. It looks like he's taken the slider almost completely out of his repertoire.
He has. We rarely see the slider at all. But you mentioned his curveball. His curveball has probably been his best pitch this year. Opponent's hitting just 201 off the curveball. It's just trying to get to it, and that's why he's throwing his fastball more, I think, early in counts to put him away with the curveball and changeup. There's the good breaking ball right there for a strikeout. And I think that the one change for him when he pitched out of the bullpen when Paxton was hurt, he had to rush into the game. Didn't have time to get ready, jumped out there, and the one thing that I noticed right away was his fastball was 91-92. Velocity was up, and he was throwing it a lot, and then putting him away with the off-speed pitches. So the key to everybody, and Junior, you were talking about before the game, is you have to be able to locate your fastball. I don't care who you are or what you're doing.
Well, that's the most important pitch, is being able to locate a fastball, get strike one.
So Griff, you came up at the age of 19, and you were one of the few guys, and I think you guys would love to hear what you think too, from all the different players that we've all played with and caught and kind of studied. You had this uncanny ability to be quiet up at the plate, even at the age of 19, and not chase a lot of pitches.
Well,
and it's very similar to the Yankees approach right now. You had tremendous power. I know you always said you weren't a home run hitter.
I was a line drive hitter.
You're a line drive hitter. That line drives went out of the ballpark.
You mentioned that record in '97 for our team. He only hit 56 of those. Just so I chipped in with my 5.
They were all line drives. I didn't get very much carry. I grew up in a household where, they talk about the strikeouts. Guys are striking out a whole bunch. In their outs. But I grew up where that's a long walk from home plate back to the dugout, and being able to look up in the stands and see the rejection of, the fans, and then have to deal with, the hitting coach and everybody else. So I'd rather, battle and, make an out than sit there and make that 60-foot walk. Because you put the ball in play, you got a chance of it,
of something happening.
Yeah. And, the name of the game is score runs. It's not striking out. When a guy strikes out, and I didn't strike out 100 times till I shattered my wrist. And that's when they told me not to check swing. So it took me a couple years after that to be like, okay, now I can fully get back to trying not to check swing. Because sometimes, check swing, be able to foul something off, that nasty low and away pitch. Where before, I just swing through it and you're like, all right. And everybody knew why I was doing it. But no, striking out is for me was the worst.
And that's interesting because nowadays people don't care if you strike out.
I wonder sometimes, because this game goes in cycles, if maybe that thinking will change again and get back to putting the ball in play a little more often.
Well, I think we saw that with the Houston Astros, right? Before they won the World Championship, they struck out the most, and they said, I don't think this is working, guys. And then the year that they won it last year, they struck out the fewest times. So there was a team who was believing in that whole mindset of, man, even with 2 strikes, try to hit it out, go deep, get that launch angle. But they clearly made an adjustment in their overall focus and strategy.
And this is one of the young players I was talking about, Miguel Andujar. Might be the rookie of the year this year. I know a lot of people are talking about Ohtani, but what a year he's having. 296, 23 home runs, and just a solid line drive from Mara Supermo on a pitch that's down and away from him. And he just lines it into left field. See Mike set up on the outside corner. That's probably more middle away.
Yeah, a little bit of that helicopter finish right there.
Yeah. A little Fred McGriff action.
Crime dog.
I think the one thing that we saw last night with the Yankees, you mentioned the Astros, one of the things that I noticed with them also, Val, is they're very aggressive early in counts. So they're going to put the ball in play, so that maybe they don't walk quite as much initially, but they're going to put the ball in play. And then I think once they get a comfort level of that, that's when you get back to what Junior was talking about, and that is, get the ball on the plate, get a pitch that you can handle and put it in play that way. But initially they were very aggressive, and they just kind of went off of that. And that's what we saw from the Yankees last night. They were swinging it early.
Well, it's pretty staggering when you start looking at some of the statistics of balls being put in play. I saw a stat the other day that was kind of shocking because I didn't realize that first pitch balls that were put in play. In fact, Mitch Haniger, when he puts the ball in play in his first pitch, he's 383.
Nice pitch right there for Felix. Looks like he's going to get out of the inning, giving up just the 1 run on a solo home run. We'll move to the bottom of the first. The Yankees won. Mariners turn to hit. Yankees. Long solo home run out to left field. It's back-to-back games with a home run for McCutchen. 387 feet. Mariners get a chance to swing the bats now. And guys, Lance Lynn on the mound. Mariners facing Tanaka last night. I thought Tanaka was really good last night, but Lynn has had his struggles lately. So hopefully the Mariner offense can get on track because it needs to at this point.
Yeah, we had a great conversation with Nelson Cruz during batting practice. Me and Mike, we were asking him about Tanaka and the difficulty of picking up his slider and that split finger. Both pitches that he had just incredible command of. You know, guys that typically have a good split finger are going to kind of leave one up. But last night they all started at the knees and were just dipping and diving, and it was a very efficient ball game by Tanaka.
Yeah, outstanding effort tonight. Not a lot of guesswork. We were talking about this before the game. Lynn, about an 80% sinker baller. That's a huge percentage. Most guys in the 60% range with their fastball, but Lynn's going to be more closer to 80% with his sinker tonight, and not a lot of guesswork, but trying to get, as a hitter, you want to try to bring that sinker up as best you can and try to be able to do something with it so you don't beat it into the ground all night long.
So facing a sinker baller, Junior, what were you looking for with a guy like Lance Lynn?
Just a ball to get up. You know, one that he, you know, starts off about belt high. That's going to be thigh high or knee high. Anything that's going to be just above your knees is going to be a ball anyway. You know, Kevin Brown was back then.
Oh yeah.
Turbo sinker, and just being able to say, all right, I'm going to wait him out. Because eventually he's got to throw the ball for a strike, and just try to be patient, you know, as patient as possible at the plate, and think about hitting the ball, you know, for me the other way, and if he gets one in the zone, being able to hit it out the ballpark.
It's interesting you talk about hitting the ball the other way. It seems like to me, you know, we're talking about the power numbers, the strikeout numbers. Seems like hitting the ball the other way has also sort of received less emphasis with the shifting you see going on today. It's just, to me, it's interesting. You know, the game's going to change and whatnot, but hitting the ball the other way has become a lost art.
It's really fallen out of favor.
Yeah,
you know, because guys are trying to lift and separate, trying to create launch angle, hitting the ball in the air. I think most of the time when you're trying to go the other way, you're thinking just kind of shoot one over there. So line drive, ground ball. But, you know, I look at shifts today and I think of you, Junior, when you first came up. Your first hit was a double to the left center field gap. You hit the ball foul line to foul. In fact, your first home run, if I'm not mistaken, was to left field, right, at the Kingdom. So as you progressed in your career, I mean, you could hit the ball. I'm still mad that you didn't say one year that you just wanted to win a batting title, because I knew you could have done that.
No, that's too much work.
Mariners catch a break. Lance Lynn laid through a sinker over to first base. A sinker to Segura that he hits off the end of the bat, fields it cleanly, and then he throws a sinker to first. Voit, the first base, not able to handle it. So Segura will move into scoring position. Mariners catch a break, like to take advantage of that.
I think that's the one thing that, you know, growing up being a young hitter, you know, not knowing what I could and couldn't do, is to be able to say, okay, hit the ball the other way. You know, I came up, you know, in high school, everybody in this room was a third or fourth hitter. Well, I came up as a number 2 hitter. You know, not everybody's going to be 3 and 4, so you have to do the little thing. Well, you know, with Harold, you know, okay, I got to learn how to get him over. When he was on second, get him over. You know, when he got to third, okay, now you got to learn how to get him in. You know, taking batting practice, that was part of the routine. You know, getting guys over, getting them in.
Thinking about those things.
Yeah, now it's straight. All right, let's play wall ball. You know, even in the high school level, when I go watch a couple kids, they're thinking about hitting home runs. I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? Oh, we got to do this. No, you got to get on base. Because how many times a home run kills rallies? Guy goes, all right, I gave up the home run. I ain't got nothing to think about. Let me go get this guy. Now he's not thinking about if the guy's on first and second. He's over there like, I've already given up the home run. What can I do now?
Yeah, there's
the
a guy
damage is
that
already done.
There's a guy that could hit the ball foul line to foul line. Right
Yeah, he can still hit.
And it's interesting you talked about that focus up at the plate about moving guys over. I remember when your dad came over in 1989, right? You and your dad played together. That September, he hit second. You hit behind him, hit
Right,
third.
I got to say something that I always wanted to say.
And what was that?
For 17 years, you protected me. For the next 6 weeks, I get to protect you.
But that September, your dad put on a clinic of what a #2 hitter at that time was expected to do.
Yeah. I learned, you know, in 17 years of being in this house, I learned more in that 6 weeks about hitting, setting up guys than living there. It was crazy because I'd watch him set up guys. You know, guy throws a nasty splitter, and he'd swing as hard as he could. Now, as a pitcher, you don't know if he missed it by a foot, 6 inches, 3 feet. You don't know. And as a catcher, you're wondering, did he see something that I'm not seeing? He said, no, I just set him up. The guy never threw it the rest of the game to him. He said, I try to eliminate one of their pitches a game. And I sat there and just was like, and, you know, him living at the house, you know, he would talk on the way home. And the one thing he did say, he said, hey, this is your team. I'm just happy to be a part of it. And when we talked about baseball, he would just say, hey, because I would ask him questions. Why did you swing at that? And he was like, because he didn't throw it again, did he? I was like, no. And I knew if they started him off with a fastball, I knew I wasn't going to get that fastball my at bat. So I learned to feel out what they were doing and really focus on being a hitter by watching him.
In those 6 weeks, did you ever say, Dad, enough already? I got a video game I need to get to.
No. He actually didn't start playing video games until he had grandkids.
The Cruz going to ground out. A couple ground outs as we were expected from Lance Lynn today. After one, it's the Yankees 1, Mariners nothing.
And by the National Electrical Contractors Association, Cascade Chapter, investing in our future. And guys, you were talking about junior and senior playing together. I don't think there will ever be another father-son that hit home runs back-to-back, but do you ever think we'll see another father-son playing on the same major league team?
Oh, that's a great question.
Wow.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Somebody got to start early.
Yes, right. and be great to be playing that long.
Yeah, and that person has to mature fast.
Yes.
How many years did your dad play? Senior.
20,
19.
right?
19.
You were.
He goes, you beat all my records except triples. You told me at an early age. You can't lead the league in doubles if you hit triples. He goes, they don't pay for triples, they pay for doubles. So I said, all right, let me just stop at second. And he got me in stolen bases. He teased me about that.
That young guy, Gleyber Torres, with that base hit to left field.
Routine double play ball. Even the base hit on the ground is a good sign for Felix. After he gave up the home run, it was a couple of ground ball outs and then the strikeout swinging. He gives up the base hit on the ground and finds a hole, and he comes right back, another ground ball out. We talked about it at the start. If he's doing that, typically he's going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, got Romine out in front, rolled over on it. Easy double play. Kyle does such a great job turning that play. Yeah, well, I'd like to see a lot of those tonight. I think infielders on both clubs are going to be busy.
Stay on your toes.
Yep.
Stay on your toes.
As an outfielder, we kind of like that.
The infielders being busy?
Yeah. We become cheerleaders. We're like, hey, let's go. You never want to see your outfielders working.
No,
that's not a good sign
No.
when you can see the outfielders'
you
numbers.
want to see their numbers.
Yeah. And when they start playing no doubles in the third inning, you don't want to see that either.
You know, I was starting to thought there with Gleyber Torres, young kid, burst on the scenes. He's really making an impact. I know all of us got to the big leagues in our early 20s. You got there at the age of 19. How did you do it? I mean, I just think about my state of mind when I was 19. I don't think I would have been capable of performing and lasting at that level. But here's a young kid, Gleyber Torres, another possible rookie of the year.
Just, you know, when you have veterans that can take care of a young kid, it's going to last. So, you know, I get there. It's you, Harold, Alvin, Jeffrey Leonard, Mickey Brantley, you know, Mike Jackson.
Big Daddy.
You know, so it was a collection of you guys. Okay, that's how you're supposed to act. That's how you, okay. All right. Because at 19, number one, I couldn't go anywhere. So it wasn't like I was going to hang out. And the one thing I didn't want to do was go back to AAA. Even though I only played one game in AAA while on a rehab. And then flew myself to Minnesota and said, Coach, I'm ready to play.
It's probably different now that you've been removed from the game. But when you think back on that time, how much did it help you that you were in major league clubhouses growing up because of your dad?
Just the idea of how to conduct yourself in the locker room. That's the biggest thing. You know, a friend of mine, we talk about it, you know, because at the time he thought that, you know, a football locker room is different than a baseball locker room and a basketball. No, they're all the same. How you conduct yourself. Trey Griffey learned how to conduct himself in a football locker room by being in the baseball locker room. Knowing what guys do. You know, go to your locker, get prepared, and get ready to play. He's seen that at an early age. Same thing with me, being able to see it at an early age. Walking in, watch, you know, Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench. Okay, this is how you get ready. This is how you win ball games. So you learn that. And then so when you get here, it's not like, oh my, you know.
Yeah, because that's the way I was.
Yeah.
Oh my, I'm really here now. What do I do?
Right, and the same thing, you know, going into Yankee Stadium for the first time on the field, you know, I knew that Babe Ruth wasn't going to walk through them doors. He's not going to help you. He's not going to surprise you and be that fourth hitter in their lineup. So go out and play. The only thing that changes from, you know, little league to high school to college to pro ball are the people in the stands. You still play baseball the same way. Hit, run, throw, and catch. You know, as little kids, you have your mom and dad, grandparents. You get to high school, you have some of your student body. You got college, your student body. Pro, you have a crowd. And the people in the crowd change. But that baseball doesn't change.
Not for that young man. He's happy. He got that hot dog.
Y'all want a hot dog?
Okay.
Felix, 33 pitches, 19 strikes so far. It's quickly ahead of McCutchen. And now a full count.
Got the big man on deck, Giancarlo Stanton. You see McCutchen battling here like we were talking before.
Another solid play by Kyle over at third. He has been busy here early. Mariners get a chance to swing the sticks. They're behind 1-0.
Major League Baseball and the Seattle Mariners are celebrating the many ways Latinos put an accent on baseball. Share how you put an accent on the game with the hashtag Ponle Acento. Guys, back upstairs to you.
Thanks, Angie. Bernard Span going to lead things off here in the second inning. Gene Segura reaching on an error in the first inning, was able to get to second, but a couple of ground outs after that. Lance Lynn able to get out of the inning.
About the year Bernard Span's having for the Seattle Mariners. I mean, he just gives you a professional at bat every time he steps in the box.
You know what he is more than anything? He's different than a lot of the guys in the lineup, and I think you need that change every now and then. See, it's this ground ball to the right side. You need that change because the Mariners have so many guys that are aggressive early in counts, and Bernard will work a count. He'll foul pitches up. Do what Junior was talking about earlier. Not trying to strike out or do too much. Hits the ball all over the place. He's been a real nice addition. He's played well for the Mariners.
I love his swing too. Pretty quiet. He's got that little
simple
step. Yeah, step with his foot, but very simple. And you know, and he can put a charge in it. He hit a home run the other night to right field on the line. I'll tell you what, he's been huge for the Mariners since coming.
Danny Wilson, 12 seasons in the major leagues. Got over 1,000 knocks, man.
You were in Cincinnati for a minute, weren't you?
Yeah, 92 September was my first call up, and then spent the year up and down in 93. And then, of course, came here in 94. Had Lou Piniella in 92. And then
Sweet Lou.
Such a nice guy. Danny.
I remember Lou's first spring training. We were playing the
93.
In 1993,
Yeah.
we're in Scottsdale playing the Giants. Got the pitchers hitting, and I forget who was on the mound, but I was catching, and I called for a slider. It's the number 8 hitter. He goes deep. Pitcher comes up, makes the last out, and I still no, I'm sorry, yeah, he threw the slider. So he's waiting for me at the top step of the dugout, and just says, "Son, what were you thinking right there?" And I was like, kind of surprised. I'm going, I called the slider to the number 8 hitter. It was like a 3-2 count. The guy, whoever the pitcher was, hung the slider, and he goes deep. I said, I called the slider. I said, it wasn't my fault he hung it on the middle part of the plate. He went, "Okay, son, just want to make sure you were thinking." But that was the one thing he would challenge you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you didn't have an answer, then you were in trouble.
Yeah.
You know.
Kyle with a couple of fastballs at the top of the zone, fouling both of them off. Back with the breaking ball.
Look, what have you seen with Kyle this season?
He's made a number of changes this year. I don't know if you remember, but early in the year he had a little bit of that hitch with his hands. He's always kind of had a leg kick, and sometimes he'll change that from time to time, but he had a little bit of that hitch, thinking he was going to drive the ball more to left center, try to take advantage of that. And I think more than anything, there's been some timing, and because of that, I've talked to Edgar about it, and Edgar said that once he kind of went through that process and decided to eliminate that, he was able to cover the fastball, and he did that for probably about a week, and it looked as if he was going to come out of it, but then he started fouling the fastball off. And if you talk to Edgar, Edgar will say he's not hitting the fastball early in counts like he normally would, and that's the reason why his average is down. Still has the 20 home runs, a lot of extra base hits, and that's just bad luck right there. He lines it the other way at the shortstop. So, you know, I just think that there's a lot of different things that goes on, and you know, Scott has talked about it with him, that he likes to tinker and change things with his swing. But eventually, and we all know this, if you get a pitch to hit early in counts, you have to put it in play. Otherwise, they're going to go to work on you and make your ABs tougher. And I just think that there's just been a lot of that with Kyle. And, you know, you look at it, you're going to have, for most of us, you're going to have years where you're going to have your one bad year and you have your one good year, and, you know, throw those two out, and you're going to be somewhere where the rest of it is. And hopefully that'll be the case with Kyle as far as his average goes.
Unless you're junior, of course.
I said most of us.
Yeah, I think Kyle's one of those guys that has really been hurt by the shift too, because I still see him making quality contact,
right? But
that shift has really hurt him, having those three guys over there on that right side.
Now, if they remove the shift, can I ask for my hits back? Don't have to worry about the RBIs. I just want the hits.
Did they shift on you that much throughout your career?
Well, the first time they did it, I looked at Gene Clines and he was like, "They're going to do that." And then,
did it bother you?
Well, the first time it was like a shock.
Yeah, make you think about it.
Yeah, and then and when fans look at shifts, you know, they're like, "Well, just lay one down, just get it over to the other side." Well, there's a coach that's sitting in that clubhouse that's sitting there. I'll give you that all day, because you're not thinking about hitting the ball out the ballpark.
Yeah, or you're somebody that has never bunted and you try and you foul it off and now you're in a hole.
But that's the thing is, why would I want to basically chicken wing my arm to hit the ball the other way when I got a chance to, if it's a good pitch,
do some damage.
I can do some damage.
Some more ground balls from Lance Lynn. Quick inning for him. Move to the top of the third.
against the Yankees starting pitcher Lance Lynn, but his hits, they just seem to come in bunches, and it doesn't matter who is on the mound. You look at what he's been able to do. It's our Lowe's whole team together now, and Gene Segura has 49 multi-hit games this season. I know you guys were wondering, Ken Griffey Jr.'s high water mark, 55 multi-hit games back in '97, although I got to give props to Ichiro, who's got 80. I know there's 4 of you up there, but maybe you guys could slide over and bring Ichiro up one of these days and show everybody just how much English he does know.
I don't want to say that.
She said that Gene has some work to do to catch it, Gene.
I'll tell you, the thing that impresses me about Gene, though, is hitting with runners in scoring position does that very, very well as well. And I think, you know, as we all know, it's one thing to hit with nobody on base. It's another thing to hit and drive guys in, and Gene's done a very nice job of that.
He doesn't change anything.
No.
The situation, what's going on, he just stays being himself, and that is aggressive, using the entire field. A fastball that beats him, he can inside out it, back the other way, or hit it back up the middle, or he'll pull it down the line.
Yeah, but when you hit balls oppo further than guys pulling it, that helps.
That helps. Yeah, that helps. But he just finds a way to get the barrel to it. I think that's a unique talent.
Yeah, but if you're not worried about, you know, I got to barrel something to go deep, he's over there like, I can go out at any given time, anywhere.
Junior, we just saw a stat. He's, I think if we can pull that back up again, the strikeouts. I think he was at 189 right there. You got a guy like Giancarlo, 189 strikeouts already. Do you like his approach? I mean, clearly he's got incredible power.
Quality pitch from Felix at the bottom of the zone.
Well, that pitch right there, you can't really do a whole lot with. But think about it. If you take, and we'll just say half of those, and we'll say 10% of those, he's got, you know, 10, 15 more hits. Where's his average then now? Just by it and just trying to put the ball in play. It may not be cute. It may not be pretty, but you got guys on base. And you know, as a catcher, you think differently when guys are on base than when guys are.
Absolutely.
You know, nobody's on. Okay, we give up a solo shot. Guys are on. You like, let me try to nibble early, and then if he ain't biting, then we got to go after him.
Well, you and I were talking about this the other day. We were talking about guys, the ability to hit with runners in scoring position, and a lot of people in the sabermetric community, the new school of analytics, really don't give a lot of credence to RBIs. They just like, oh, that's just something that actually happens. But as a catcher, as you guys were just talking about, your perspective, right? All of a sudden, someone's in scoring position. You change. You're not going to pitch to that guy the same way as you would if there was nobody on base.
No, absolutely. You got to approach it differently, and you do some different things. You get creative, because that the last thing you want is that guy to get a knock, and so you do have to change, and I think that's why it's impressive to me when you look at a guy like Segura, who hits well with runners in scoring position. You know, he's making the adjustment with the pitcher, with the catcher. He's doing what he has to do to continue to get hits with guys in scoring position, because it is very, very different. And we've all hit with nobody on base, but being able to hit with runners on base, it's a different story for sure.
That's when my eyes lit up when people on.
Because that's a stake out there for you.
That was part of, you know, and being able to be on base and score for somebody. You know, that ball that, you know, the double Edgar hit, you know, guys, you know, being able to score like that, that's important.
I think of a guy like Derek Jeter, who, former Yankee, a lot of times with nobody on base, would take that first pitch. You know, you could almost throw a strike down there like clockwork. But you get a guy at second base, it's a completely different at bat. He's going to be much more aggressive, much earlier in the count. And you definitely have to change your approach at that point. So it's a different animal. And
even for the pitcher, right? So you as a catcher, you're changing. Although the pitcher gets that guy on second base, he doesn't want to give up an earned run.
Right.
No. I mean, if ever they're going to bear down, and I think Felix has always been so good at that throughout his career.
And another good inning for Felix. A couple of ground balls and another strikeout for Felix. So it looks as if he has it locked in. Mariners just need to get some offense going as they move into the bottom of the third.
It's true. Paying is as easy with the Transit Go ticket app. The technology these days, it's so fancy, which makes me wonder, guys, can you imagine playing in the days of social media like the guys have to nowadays?
Thank you. No, thank you, Ange. I want no part of it.
And Mike puts a charge in a dead center field, and this one's going to fly away. Tremendous power from Zunino. Long home run to dead center field to tie this game up for Mike, his 19th home run on the year. We were just talking about getting the ball up in the zone and being aggressive early, and first pitch fastball right in the middle of the plate.
Grown man territory, too.
You betcha. He doesn't hit any cheap ones. A long home run for Zunino.
Now, I have always been so impressed by the power of Zunino. We've seen
that finish.
Woo.
Good extension.
Romero Supermo, and just the follow through and extension.
We talked a lot about the sinker. And Val, you know this as a catcher, seeing sinkers over the years. Boy, when that sinker gets up in the zone, it really flattens out, and there isn't a lot of movement at all. And Mike Z picked it out, saw it early, and just drove that ball way out of here to center field.
Well, Lance, he's not going to get away with a lot of those pitches. As you take a look one more time here, this ball's got some elevation. 30-degree launch angle, 436. That's what Junior used to hit him.
My launch angle wasn't that high, though.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, line drive.
You're lying now. You're lying.
My launch angle wasn't that high. It was around 24 degrees.
Wait a second. Now, if I remember correctly, in the Kingdom, the third deck, it had to have at least a 30-degree launch
that
angle.
That was a curveball. It just came off the back funny. That had nothing to do with it. My swing stayed the same.
With Zunino, though, his power, it's shocking sometimes how he can drive a baseball the opposite way. I don't know if you guys remember, I believe it was last year, he hit a game-ending home run to right center field. Might have been against the Minnesota Twins. Can't remember, but absolutely crushed it. You don't typically see right-handed hitters driving the ball. I think it went up by that Holland America line out there in right center field.
Yeah, to the top of that tarp.
It was a bomb. And Mike not having such a great year average-wise, but
he's got the power. You know, we talk a lot about leaving this stadium and who's going to be the first guy to do it. You know, we talk about Nelly, obviously, as a guy that's capable of it. I think Mike Zunino's capable of leaving this yard, and he's got that kind of power. When his ball, or when his barrel finds the ball, it just goes, and it goes a long way.
I want to say he's gone up a couple of rows from the top already, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's been close.
And you're talking about the home run to right center that he had hit. And if you talk to Mike, that's the thing that he talks about all the time, just trying to get that thought process going. It's not necessarily a mechanical thing for him. It's more of a thought process of trying to stay to right center. Now, you have to be in position to hit the ball that way. And when he's right, he has tremendous power. We just saw it to dead center field. And I think for Mike, as he moves forward, just to find a few of those keys along the way, to where he can stay out towards right center, especially when maybe he doesn't feel good. We all get there where we're going to struggle, and you have to have something to go to, and that's, you know, he's in the process of going through that. And we saw it last year. He went through about a 6-week stretch where he was carrying the club and hitting everything hard, and just so much talent there. And it's just about at this level trying to be consistent with what you're doing. And obviously, he has a lot of play. You guys know that by being a catcher, and that's his main job is to take care of the pitching staff. But there's just a lot of offensive talent there. It's just a matter of being consistent with it.
Taking care of that pitching staff is something I think he's done so well from day one. He's got a great rapport. He's got leadership skills. You know, the pitchers gravitate to him, and they listen to him because I think they recognize his desire to help get them through a ball game.
And he's prepared. You know, you can't underestimate that. I had a chance to talk to him the other day about, you know, his pregame work and the scouting reports and how he handles that. And I tell you what, he's prepared, and those guys trust him. And you know, Val, being a catcher, you've got to earn your pitcher's trust, and that takes some time. But Mike has it, and when you have a pitcher's trust, they'll go with you. They just kind of put it on autopilot and let you handle it. And he's at that point with a lot of these guys, and they love it.
Now, I've always felt that the best approach as a catcher, and I didn't learn, I wish I'd have known this earlier in my career, but later on in your career, you start to, you know, you get a better understanding of the game and relationships, was just being their servant.
Yeah.
Right? If that pitcher knows that I'm back here and I will do anything I possibly can, block balls, block the plate, you know, take bullets for you, work with the umpire for you.
Be prepared.
Be prepared for you, whether I'm 0 for 4 or 4 for 4. Pitchers see that and they sense that. And when they know that you're back there doing whatever you can for them, then they start trusting you faster.
Yes.
And that was something I wish I would have known a little bit earlier in my career, but I think he already knows that, and he's applying that.
We talked a lot about his ascent to the big leagues was very, very quick. Didn't spend a lot of time in the minor leagues, and to me it's because he could handle that defensive side so easily and so readily. It made it possible for him to handle those jumps each time.
Nice backhanded play by Torres to end the inning. Move to the top of the 4th. The tie ball game.
You take your eyes off the road. If you're on the road, off the phone. Let's reach our target 0 goal together. 0 traffic deaths in your family and 0 traffic deaths in our state. Gentlemen, back to you.
You'll know that.
And Felix, a couple of strong innings for Felix. Hopefully that will continue. We talked about him keeping the ball on the ground, Dan, and we've seen that from him so far, really pitching down in the zone.
Done a nice job. See a nice breaking ball there too. You know, he's staying on the corners. He's staying down. He's making it difficult for these Yankee hitters. Sometimes, a leadoff home run like that, and Junior, you mentioned it, can be a rally killer. Might have been a wake-up call. I got to keep the ball down. It's just kind of that reminder early in a ball game. I can't live in the middle of the plate. I can't get the ball up, and since that point, he's been pretty tough.
And he's giving Kyle a workout at third.
Yeah, the one thing about Felix, probably about 5 years ago, you started to see some of that velocity drop. I always felt that his stuff would play just because of the movement he has.
Yeah.
Yes, he doesn't throw 95 anymore, 96. But that fastball still has good movement. His changeup still has tremendous movement. And the fact that he's throwing that curveball a little bit more effectively, I always felt like, pitchers as they age, they lose velocity, they've got to reinvent themselves. And I thought with him that this would be a transition that if he embraced it, that he'd be able to be very successful at it.
It's interesting, and we kind of, as catchers, and I should include Blow because he was a catcher for
I have an inning in.
He used my gear. I gave him my.
There you go.
Actually,
I did it in the commercial. Does that count?
Yes, you're part of the fraternity.
But we have a unique perspective on guys. And a guy that we both caught, Chris Bosio, was one of those type of guys who threw hard early in his career and then had to reinvent himself as things went on. And who are some guys that you can remember that were like that, where they were a different guy early on in their career, and then they had to reinvent themselves later on?
Well, I think you mentioned Chris Bosio. I caught his no-hitter. Was one of the special nights of my career. He got through that entire game. It was against the Boston Red Sox with a dead fish. Yep. That's what he called it. And it was a BP fastball. He was throwing it about 85 miles an hour, just right down the middle. And he had that little movement on it.
Right.
And guys were just rolling over on it. But I think of, as I'm looking at the Yankee dugout, CC Sabathia over there, came in as a flamethrower, throwing 97. Doesn't throw that hard anymore, but again, reinvented himself, pitching differently, different style, and he's been very successful.
It's taken him some time, though, to get to that point, and you look at him now, he's going to pitch in tomorrow's game, and CC with a 3.5 ERA, so he's figured it out. Can we get a double play right here? And a good fastball from Segura to finish the double play, so Felix again staying on the ground. Andujar, by the way, was given an infield hit. And for Sabathia, 7-6 record, but a 3.5 ERA, 124 strikeouts over 47 walks. Opponent's hitting just 245 against him. And now you were talking about it at one point. This is a guy that was 97, 98 with a hard slider, and all of a sudden that velocity starts to go down, and you have to try to figure it out. And sometimes it's a health issue that causes the problem. Sometimes it's just innings. You pitch so many innings. That's been the case with Felix. But it doesn't always happen overnight, even though they're both great pitchers and have been throughout their career.
Yeah, another guy that kind of just comes at me, some of the older folks out there might remember Frank Tanana.
Yes.
It was kind of like a Randy Johnson when he first got to the big leagues with the Angels. Health was an issue for Frank, but then he became kind of like a Jamie Moyer.
Yeah.
Started to move the ball, throw it inside and a little comebacker, slow breaking balls, a lot of change-ups. But if you want to stay at this level and you want to still be able to compete, you've got to be able to adjust and make some changes as Father Time starts catching up with you.
And we were talking earlier too about Bartolo Colon doing the same thing now in Texas. Obviously a guy who threw very hard as a young player, and now has learned the master of the movement really, and location and changing speeds.
So Griff, as you were getting older, what were some of the things that you had to do to adjust to continue to have the success that you did later on?
Well, defensively was, being in better position. At 19, I'm
smarter,
like,
kind of just smarter.
Like 19, I'm like, all right, okay, we're gonna line up here
And just cover everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At 35, I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to run that far. Let me slide over another 7 steps and be in the right position. And I think that's the key for a defensive player is knowing each individual hitter, where their strengths are. If he doesn't throw it in that spot and he hits it somewhere else, that's not your fault. As a hitter, it was early swing at everything. And then
figure out, breaking in,
right, figure out what you can drive, what you can't drive, and then learn to be more selective of number one, where you want to hit the ball. You brought up Lou. Lou questioned me saying, how come I don't hit the ball? I don't pull the ball. You're at second, the guy on second base. You need to pull the ball. And I'm like, I can't pull the ball because they're throwing it away. We had to go in there and watch video.
And figure it out.
And Lou was like, never mind, I get it now.
Another good inning for Felix, and Kyle Seager busy at third, fine backhand play to end top of the 4th.
when you are up to date. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Seattle Mariners and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Seattle Mariners. Now, guys, Junior was talking about pulling Lou Piniella into the video room before we went to break. I'm curious, what was the best thing about playing for Lou, and what was the worst thing about playing for Lou?
Ooh,
Dan?
where do we start?
You guys can't do that to me.
Yes, we can.
Well,
You got the longest tenure.
that's true. I tell you, I say this a lot about Lou. I think one of the best things about Lou was that there was nobody in the ballpark that wanted to win more that particular night than Lou Piniella, and you knew he was going to do everything he could in his power to help you win a ball game. And that was a good feeling, knowing your manager was in that ball game each and every night. And I love playing for a guy like that.
The thing that when I think of Lou, I think about his short memory. He might have been just so upset with you the night before, but it was like the next day, it was almost like you forgot yesterday even happened. Did you guys ever get that feeling?
Oh, yeah.
Amnesia.
Yeah, it's just he went to sleep, woke up, and it was like another day.
Another day.
Yeah. But you're right, he hated to lose.
Oh.
And I don't know if I should say this, but he hated pitchers. They drove him
You can say
crazy.
That is very true. I think for myself, it's just the intensity that he had in a random game in June when we were in Detroit. It still meant a lot to him. And if he felt that we were just kind of going through the paces, that wasn't going to be good enough. And whether it was sending guys out or having a conversation with us, which he didn't do a lot, but when he did, you listened to him. I think we all learned a lot from that, how important every single night was at this level. And then, the main thing for me is I was really fortunate in that he's just so loyal to the guys that play for him. And when I was coming back after my knee surgery, I couldn't pass a physical, didn't have a job, literally weeks before spring training. And we just saw Rick Griffin up here too, former trainer. But Lou made a phone call, asked me how I was doing. Can you play once a week against left-handers? I said I can do that, and he gave me a job. So you don't see a lot of that, and that's something that for him, he's just so loyal to all the guys that have put on a uniform for him and played for him.
Why y'all looking at me? I didn't have them same issues that y'all have.
Don't we know it?
He didn't really say a whole lot to me.
Did he ask you for your opinion on things? If there was something going on or he needed to make a change or something was happening, would he call you in the office or just walk by and talk to you about it?
Well, he'd look at me if the pitcher was later in the inning, and he would be like, "You still have it?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." Or you might want to
make a move.
Yeah. But he would always, it was always his final decision. He would ask for an opinion. But as a player, you don't want to be in there too much, talking about, hey, get this guy out of here.
I know. For me, and I bet he did this with you as well. He'd come out to talk to the pitcher, and it was almost like the pitcher was not on the mound.
Yeah.
He'd look right at me and goes, "What's he got left?"
Yeah.
Looking at me.
With the pitcher
and the
standing right
pitcher's
there.
looking at me like, "What are you gonna say?" And it was like, you better tell the truth, though.
Right.
Because he's looking at you like, does he still have it?
Right.
Right. I know you got a better feel than me. And he would look right. It was a very uncomfortable situation. And sometimes, you say, hey, he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
The last 4 pitches, he's just given up 1,400 feet of fly balls. Just lucky that none of them got over the wall. But, he's showing signs that the ball's getting elevated. But, that was an uncomfortable conversation.
And the thing about it is he already knew all of that. He just wanted you to say it.
That's right.
Another quick inning for Lance Lynn. Go to the top of the 5th.
Hey, Seattle Mariners baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Country Financial. When it comes to planning for your future, start with simple steps today at countryfinancial.com. All right, guys, you guys know the clubhouses around Major League Baseball are just sick nowadays. They are so nice. They are so plush. But the one thing about minor league baseball is it kind of is really unchanged. So I'm curious what your first experiences were with minor league baseball.
We'll let Junior go first because it was short. he wasn't there very long.
Wow, just put me on the spot. I just remember Bellingham.
No ham like B-ham, baby.
Walking across the street, in through a parking lot, down some stairs, into the football locker room for 6 weeks. Actually, yeah, almost 2 months.
The clickety-clack of your cleats walking over the cement?
No. We had to wear shoes over there. We had rules. You know, the rules that you know, no spikes in the clubhouse. You know, the time you had to be somewhere. Things that when you had a manager who was Rick Sweet, who'd been in the big leagues, would tell you, prepare you how to be in the big leagues. And that was my first. I was like, oh my. You know, and playing in front of people I didn't know. You know, high school was like, hey, I know, you know.
Mom and dad.
Yeah, got my boys there. No, it was totally different playing in front of, you know, guys, number one, guys who played college baseball, you know, and who were successful in college. And now, you know, yes, I was the youngest one in high school, but now I am really the youngest one.
Right.
You know, guys 24 years old, you know, playing with. So it was nerve-wracking. You know, but I knew I could play baseball, and I was there to play baseball. You know, but I was still 17, so I got in a little trouble with my mom. She said, until you start hitting, I think I started off a little rough, hitting 214, and she came to visit, had that little inspiring speech. I will never come see you again until you start hitting.
How tough was that? I was just leaving home. You've been home your entire life, and all of a sudden you sign a contract. The next thing you know, you're in Bellingham, far away from home.
And you said at 17.
Yeah, 17 years old.
I think my phone bill, you know, calling home collect, I think it was like $2,000.
I bet.
The thing is, you know, learn how to do everything. You know, find an apartment, get furniture, turn your lights on. Do all these things.
Learn how to do laundry.
I had laundry down. I had laundry down. What I did is I brought enough clothes that I knew my mom was going to come visit. But no, it was just, you know, all these things that, you know, as parents, you know what to do, and you trying to do it. I mean, what's funny is Melissa is leaving for Pittsburgh to help Trey find an apartment. Yeah. And I'm like, I had to do that all by myself. Me and 5 other guys that was my roommates.
Right. Yeah. That's true too. You forget about that.
Yeah, you're
half
sharing.
the team is in there with you.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had a 2-bedroom with 6 guys. You know, and I was making $700 a month. You know, after taxes, like right around $450. I'm like, how am I going to eat? How am I do that?
Wait, timeout.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, says the number one pick.
Hold on. I didn't get my check right away. Let's start off with that, Val. They didn't give me my check like, you know, you know, nowadays when you sign a line, they hand you a check. No. I had to wait. And plus, my mom and dad were like, hey, you're going to live like everybody else. And, you know, when you get home, it might be different, but I'm not sending you any money. You're going to learn how to budget and everything else like everybody else. Everybody else is making $700. You're going to play with $700. Go to A-ball, same thing. We had a 3-bedroom, 3-story townhouse in 6 guys stayed in it. And it was the same thing. Now, I had my car then, but it was still like, hey, this is how minor league ball. Now, if you want to play and make the money, you got to get out of here. It wasn't like, hey, let's just show up and give you some money and, you know. No, it was
the easy life.
Yeah, no.
partner with a stolen base. Val, you signed out of high school, didn't you?
I did. I was 17 as well, from New York City, landed in Bellingham, played at the same Joe Martin Stadium, stayed in that same locker room, but I was there in 1978. We were still allowed to wear the cleats across the grounds and everything, but 1978 Bellingham, I've been there recently last year on the Caravan. It's a beautiful, booming city, but back in 1978, all I could remember was Fred Myers in Joe Martin Stadium, and I lived in this little tiny, 2-bedroom apartment with my roomie, and I was like, what am I doing here? And like you, calling mom, and after 2 weeks, I was probably hitting about $150. I was going, Mom, I don't know about this baseball thing.
No, my mom came to
But
visit.
the crazy thing is, my first game, I went 3 for 4. I think I had like 2-3 ribbies, and I'm thinking, this is gonna be easy. I'm gonna be in the big leagues in a couple of years, and then reality hit. Because as you mentioned, Junior, I was playing against guys that came out of college that were 21, 22, 23 years old, and I thought I could handle it, but it was not an easy transition. And then kind of fast forward, go to manage Everett, and we go up as Angie was talking about the ballparks. I walked into Nate Bailey Stadium in Vancouver, and they had not changed a thing since 1978. That locker room was the exact same. It was probably the same carpet too. It was like, okay, come on, they could at least upgraded the carpet here, but it had not changed.
Then you go to, Dayton, and Dayton Dragons got this new baseball facility. You're like, I didn't see this, and what's going back to thing. I'm looking at how college players, football players, going, charters, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at going, did you see what I just went through? No, I wouldn't even send my kid here, but you have to.
It looks like something's wrong with Felix. Scott Service, the trainer, out, and that's going to be it for Felix. 75 pitches into it. Sean Armstrong getting loose out into the pen, so there will be a pitching change. Take a look at the last pitch from Felix, see if you guys see anything. 3-2 breaking ball.
I didn't see anything in that one that really jumped out.
You know that the King knows his body, knows it well. 4 innings, and he scatters 6 hits, the 1 earned run, the Andrew McCutcheon home run. I think they want to get him out there before he lost control. 75 pitches. Time now for our Beacon Plumbing call to defend. It is going to be Sean Armstrong, and while he get as much time as he needs to get ready, I don't think he'll need too much, guys, because he was already up in the pen and throwing. Now, before we went to break, we had heard a little bit from Junior. We had heard a little bit from Val, but Dana, I'm curious, as to your humble beginnings in minor league baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because Junior and I both came from the East Coast, went all the way to the West Coast, and you went.
Well, I started out in Chicago after I played 3 years at the University of Minnesota and then was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds, and their A-ball team at the time was Charleston, West Virginia. So reported to Charleston, West Virginia, and didn't know it was the capital of West Virginia. I found that out right away. But you know, we ended up, it was actually a great year. We ended up winning the league that year, and I remember having to go directly from ending the playoffs and winning it to going right down to instructional league and right back into instructional league for another 6 weeks. So, you know, you sign, you go, you get started, you play, and then back in at that time you went for 6 more weeks and you went till Halloween playing baseball, and it was a lot on your plate. You were ready to be done with baseball by the time Halloween rolled around.
I'm curious, and I didn't ask you this, but Willie, so that first year, how many guys on that team got to the big leagues?
Well, I will say this, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I will say that Trevor Hoffman was an aspiring shortstop at the time out of the University of Arizona, had not transferred over to pitching yet. He was still trying to make it as a shortstop, third baseman, had a great arm, obviously, was hitting, he was on the interstate, I think, at his average when we got there. And then eventually one day he's throwing on the side. You know, he's like, let me just see what I can do on the mound. And sure enough, somebody saw him, and that was the time where they started to make the conversion for him.
Mariners had the infield in, maybe about halfway. Big fly ball to right. Should score a run. Both runners tagging up. Gamble will take care of it in right field.
I know from my team in 1978, Bellingham Mariners, the other guys that got to the big leagues was Dave Edler, who I believe is now the mayor over in Yakima, and the pastor over there as well, and Orlando Mercado, the other catcher on the team. How about you, Jeff? You met who else?
David Burba.
Dave Burba, okay.
Was the second round pick.
Had a good career.
Yeah.
Lo, how about you? You grew up here?
Yeah.
And then ended up where?
Like Danny, I was in college. I signed out of the University of Washington. Went to Jamestown, New York for the Penn League. Like Junior was talking about, met my 5 roommates right away.
Did you have a mattress on the floor?
Initially, yes, and then one of my roommates ended up getting called up, and he had a bad line drive right at the shortstop. This would be a double play. Great break for the Mariners, although they did give up the 1 run. As soon as we find out what happened to Felix, we will let you know, but we'll move into the bottom of the 5th. It is the Yankees 2, the Mariners 1.
By Heritage Distilling, BSB Brown Sugar Bourbon. You can't spell baseball without BSB. Guys, back upstairs to you.
Thank you, Angie. Get some offense going for the Mariners. Offense tonight has been Mike Zunino, a solo home run in the third inning, 19th home run on the year for Zunino. Kyle Seager is going to lead things off. Seager, Gamble, and Zunino here in the bottom of the fifth. Lance Lynn has thrown the ball well, a lot of ground ball outs, a couple of strikeouts in the last inning. And primarily, Dan staying with the fastball. Is this what we were talking about with the scouting report?
Yeah, very efficient using the ground ball. We're in the fifth inning, only 50 pitches for him. That's very, very efficient for a guy. And Mariners, Zunino did get the one mistake and drove it out of the ballpark. So hopefully they can, with his fatigue starting to set in, hopefully they'll get some balls that are up in the zone a little bit more and be able to do something with them.
Kyle in his first at bat. What you were talking about, getting the ball up when you have somebody that's sinker ball. He had a couple of fastballs that were up in the zone and fouled them back.
You can't miss those.
Line drive to center field.
Get down.
There you go. Find some outfield grass. Look at the swing by Kyle, running the fastball off the outside corner, and that's a quality pitch. It's on the corner at the knees. Primera Supermo, head right on it. He barrels it up into center field. Val, I went to the Penn League. My room was like
it's a beautiful part of New York, by the way.
Yes, it is. Yes, absolutely it is. But because, as Junior explained, you don't have a lot of money in the minor leagues, virtually none. I believe there was a place that was called the Rusty Nail. They had the best chicken wings, and we ate there almost every night because it was cheap. And I made the same phone call home after a couple of weeks, too. These guys throw awfully hard. I'm not sure how long this is going to last. I ended up being sent to Bradenton in rookie ball, where we were in like these dorms with 3 or 4 other teams, organizations.
Oh, wow.
It was a long summer.
Just a giant frat party.
And then right after that, when I thought I was done for the summer and looking forward to coming home, to your point, and I ended up going to Instructional League in West Palm Beach, which turned out to be a great thing for me. But at the time, I'd had enough.
I'm a 3-year graduate of Instructional League.
Congratulations on that. It worked out all right for you.
And I only spent 2 years in the minors. after my rookie year, they sent me down to Instructional League.
How long was it for you guys before you became accustomed to, we got to perform every day? Because you go from high school, you're playing twice a week, or college, you're playing the weekend series, and all of a sudden it's, you got to strap it on every day and show up.
I think that's one of the biggest adjustments of minor league baseball, especially guys coming out of college or high school. It's just that is the biggest part of the adjustment, and it takes a good 2, 3, 4 weeks to really understand, like, you know, and in the minor leagues there are hardly any off days, so it really is a game every day, and learning how to get yourself not only physically ready but mentally ready to play each and every night is a huge adjustment.
Good hustle by Ben.
And of course the bus rides really help your body too.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
Great. And trying to hit the ball the other way. Unfortunately, it was right at the third baseman, but good hustle to stay out of the double play.
My bus when I was in with the Bellingham Mariners was an old school bus, and you know what that means.
No AC, no heat,
no bathroom. Wow. And I still remember going from Bellingham to Boise, which is a long drive, boys, on a very uncomfortable bus, and it was time to find a restroom, and we couldn't. I don't know why they couldn't find one, but we just pulled over on I-90. It was just a line of about 25 young men taking care of business.
Minor leagues.
Wow.
Well, Mike Zunino, we mentioned his solo home run in the third inning, dead center field, 436 feet from Mike. Jumped on a first pitch fastball. Shift on the infield.
I just remember, you know, once I got to the big leagues, like the first year I was okay, because they were like, hey, you're gonna watch a little bit, you're gonna learn, like,
take care of me. Yeah,
you know, first time Frank Tananis pitches, sit right here, you're not gonna get him this time, but you're gonna get him next time. And then the next year I got to like the 70 game mark, and I'm like, oh my, I am so tired. We haven't even got all-star break yet, because I didn't know. I was like,
never played that much.
Never played that much. You know, it was like, hey, we're gonna take care of you your first year. You know, in minor league ball, you're not playing every day because there's 6 outfielders. And no, we got 5 outfielders. and you're playing. And the fifth outfielder is also, he plays infield. So,
and I just remembered something. Your rookie year too, you had that injury in, was it August?
mm-hmm.
You broke your hand.
Broke a hand.
So you didn't have that whole full season then either, even in your rookie year.
No, and then they sent me to instruction league.
Okay.
But they sent me to instruction league to learn how to slide.
You never learned that, did you?
I tell everybody, yo, I was so fast. By the time I looked up, the bag was right there. So the funny thing is,
nobody went through pants like you did.
Well,
I mean, you tore up your stuff like no one else.
But that's the whole. I'm playing on turf. You know, I'm sliding on turf. Then I'm fast, and I hit the bag. It was funny. They called the Reds to have my dad fly to Arizona to teach me how to slide. I'm like, why are they sending him over here? It's like a family reunion. I'm down there. I come in the airport, and my dad's looking at me. I go, what are you doing here? He goes, son, they got me here to teach you how to slide. I'm like, what? I can slide. He goes, no, you can't. So I spent the next 3 days sliding. Everybody else is playing. I'm sliding.
I remember the first time that we did that, it was in spring training in the minor leagues, and I walk out there and they have all the old pants to pull up over uniform.
Yeah.
In your socks, and they're watering down the grass, and off we go.
No, I didn't have that. They had the nice little foam with the little slide pad on it.
So, though your first year, who else made it to the big leagues from that team?
Gene Harris, the only one. Me and Gene. Yeah, only ones on the
Montreal Expos, right?
Montreal Expos, yeah. And as far as kind of trying to figure things out, I was really fortunate. Val, my first year in long season A was in West Palm Beach, and Felipe Alou was my manager.
Great man.
And I learned a lot just from being a professional and being in the lineup every day and what that was all about and what it required, really. I was really lucky to have somebody at such a young time in my career, to have somebody like that, just a terrific person and a great player.
Yes, he was.
But you need that. Guys need that. That's, I think, one of the things. You got guys who played, but not guys who've been in the big leagues coaching that first year guy. You know, once you get them out there, you can have your second and third year, you know, your high A, double A guys. But that first year is so important to set the tone of what it takes to be in the big league from a guy who's been there.
Good count for D. Gordon, trying to pick up a base hit and drive in a run and tie this ball game. That may work. That will work. There you go.
Now I don't have to call his dad and tell him.
Well, we'll take a look at it. And it's going to be a fastball inside. Primera Supermo in the swing by D. It jams him a little bit on the label, but he'll take it. He dumps it out in the left field.
Yeah,
with a couple of outs, easy for Ben to score on
I
it.
was just going to say, but the good thing is that there was 2 outs because Ben was able to take off on contact. Otherwise, he would have been having to pull up and make sure that ball hits the grass. Let's see if they can snatch a bag right here, money bag.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking earlier, Junior, about you were young and how important it was to have older guys. I think that the whole feeling of being a mentor in the game is one of the things that I love about baseball. And I know I can go down to each guy here, and we've all got a guy who took us under their wing at some point and kind of showed us what it meant to be a big leaguer. And I know for me it was Billy Doran over in Cincinnati, and he was just a guy that, you know, I met in spring training, and we shagged fly balls in BP, and we had conversations, and it's just I love that part of it, that there's this mentorship, that it's so important to acclimate guys to what it means to not only just play baseball, but play baseball at the big league level as well.
I had Joe Black and Willie Stargell.
Wow. That's pretty good. Yeah, that helps.
Willie always scared me. I get drafted. You know, everybody think, you know, him was the first baseman. Well, he was an outfielder before he became the first baseman. He goes, hey, we're going to the outfield. I go, for what? He goes, we're going to get your footwork right. And he hit fungos
It was deep
at me for 40 minutes.
They're going to hold things up, see if he beat it or not. Tagged him on the bat. I'm not sure if his hand was in there first. Here's the dive by D.
Got him.
I think he got him.
Wow.
This replay has changed the way tags are being made nowadays. Watch, he goes straight down. He's not reaching back towards the bag. Really, in our day, he would have been called safe and there would have been no replay because he touched him so high on the body. But clearly the tag happens prior to the base.
Well, the good news is he picked up the big base hit, the clutch base hit to tie the ball game. We'll move into the top of the 6th.
Pop collectible. Thanks to Funko, when the Mariners face the Rangers on Saturday, September 29th, there's a limited edition of these collectibles. 1,000 of these are rookies, and then you've just got a limited number, 24 of them, the brown statue version of them. This is what they look like if you are not familiar with the Funkos. But guys, besides the hat backwards and the swing, the follow through, I don't know that they got your likeness, Junior. What do you think?
I think it looks better than Junior.
Come on. I was on the cover of GQ. Let's start with that.
Well, if you missed it, Felix was really throwing the ball well. Fortunately, it looked like there was some sort of injury out there after he'd walked a couple of batters, but really pitched well, 5 innings, just the 2 earned runs. We'll see what happens with him, but now it's going to be the bullpen the rest of the way.
Yeah, Sean Armstrong coming in, doing a nice job so far. You know, kind of slamming the door there, and now see what happens here in the 6th. But Mariners picking up that run, I think, is huge to kind of even the score, turn it into a 4-inning ball game going here.
Yeah, that double play to end the inning when the Yankees were threatening back in the top of the 5th, I think was a huge play, a huge turnaround. And if you had a couple of ground ball double play and that line drive double play really helped them out tonight so far.
For Sean Armstrong, his average fastball 94 miles an hour, cutter, slider primarily with it. We'll see how long Scott Service will stay with Armstrong, trying to pitch to the middle of the lineup.
We were talking earlier, Mike, too. We saw Sean a couple of nights ago coming in the 7th inning. Scott said he was going to mix and match a little bit in the 7th inning, try to find some answers. We saw him here in the 5th because of the injury. But interesting that, like you mentioned, game was, you know, was in the balance, and it was time to bring him in.
Well, I think maybe it was just because there was a couple of runners on, nobody out, so it was a high leverage situation as they'll pick up the strikeout. And he'd already been getting loose just in case. And so I think that's the reason why. And if you look at this club in the bullpen, it's easy. Right after 7, you go to Colomé, then you give it to Diaz, and that's a done deal.
Right.
But it's trying to mix and match it the rest of the way. And now they have all these extra arms that they've called up. And Armstrong being one of them, but a pretty good fastball. And he's been able to locate the cutter and slider to go with it. But, you know, we'll see how it goes the rest of the way.
And I think with all the information that they have now, to me, that situation right there could have been the turning point of the ball game. Right, the Yankees are threatening. There's a couple of guys on base. You lose your starter. It's not like you just want to give that inning to just anybody, because the Yankees at that point were in place to put up a crooked number.
First and second, nobody out was Stanton walking to the plate.
Yes. So that to me it was a high leverage situation in this ball game so far. Didi Gregorius coming off the DL just yesterday, got an at-bat last night. I think that's what surprises me about the Yankees in their home run totals. They've got 231s now, is that they've done it with Gregorius on the DL. Sanchez has been on the DL. They don't have the big fellow Aaron Judge. He's been on the DL for quite a while, yet they're still hitting home runs.
Good communication right there. Good communication to end the inning. Strong inning for Armstrong. Mariners get a chance to swing the bat in the bottom of the sixth.
Stick around after the game for Mariners postgame presented by Alaska Airlines. We'll head inside the clubhouse here from the skipper. Now, moments ago, Denard Span came in, and in this situation, left fielder has priority over the left side of the infield. Segura pulls off. Ken Griffey Jr., you, of course, were the center fielder, and you have priority over everyone. Did you always have that sort of presence to be able to call off everything you can get to, or did you have to work at it?
No, I knew, from working at it that, I was the general of the outfield, and whatever I can get to, it was my ball. But as an infielder, you're taught, go out there as hard as you can, and if he calls you off, get out the way. Because it's a lot easier to, for an outfielder to be coming in for a ball than an infielder going out. So, if the outfielder can get to it, he's going to get to it. But, when they start, as an infielder, when we see those as an outfielder, we see the infielder's arms start waving, then we know that he stopped running and he's right under it. So usually those balls we let the infielders have.
So here's the thing. I was one of probably 80 left fielders that you had played with, Junior, in Seattle, but one of many. Haniger pops us up to the first baseman. And speaking of communication, and you guys will appreciate this, we're playing in San Diego. Junior is in center field. Something happened, last minute scratch. I go from third. I'm starting in left field. I haven't played much left field at all. A ball is hit in the gap closer to me, and it's going to be up against the fence. And all I can hear as I'm running back watching the ball, and I think it's a day game, is I can hear Junior saying, "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay," because otherwise he's supposed to give me a warning that the wall is there. As soon as I catch this, my face goes right into the wall. I hit the warning track. It was the last out of the inning. He's standing over me laughing. And I said, "What did you tell me about the wall?" He said, "If I told you about the wall, you wouldn't have made the catch."
Somehow you got to coach people into doing things.
I appreciate it, because you probably saved me from getting yelled at by Lou, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
So
the ripple effect.
That's
Right there.
That's exactly right.
Remember Butch Husky running into
Oh,
the
yeah.
outfield?
Oh yeah, the next day.
Was that you that did that to the wall?
No, I did not do that to the wall. But I will tell you that I did yell wall with him. I went, you have room, you got room. Wall, wall, wall. And all of a sudden he turned and boom.
And it was loud.
And everybody's out there and he rolls over and he looks at me. He goes, you didn't tell me wall. I said, yeah, I did. 3 times. He goes, oh.
He was a big man too.
Oh.
And what for the folks listening out there, when I said when he did that to the wall, the next day they took tape and made an outline of Butch Husky on the outfield wall because he just like planted himself into it.
That's the hardest I think I've ever seen somebody run into a wall.
Yeah, he was full head of steam.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you talk about communication, Val, because as a catcher, we don't communicate at all on pop-ups that are in the foul area. We are quiet, and we wait until we hear an infielder call us off, and then we get out of the way.
Hit hard by Cano, but unfortunately it was right at the third baseman. Tie ball game, 2-2, moving into the top of the 7th.
You get home field advantage on Silver Bullet Saturdays. Download the Coors Light Rewards app and start earning points towards rewards like Mariners tickets and Coors Light gear while supplies last. Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Guys, I'm curious what advice you would give to the guys downstairs going through a season like this. They're in a battle right now with the Yankees, but sort of up and down seasons, and what you can take away from a year like this.
I think you get to this point, Dan, and it's just day to day, and that's the only way you can look at it. Everybody has injuries, guys are tired, but this is what you play for, and you know, there's still an opportunity for them, and you just have to concentrate on the day-to-day. So take a look at Nick Vincent, 53 appearances, a 4.1 ERA. 47 strikeouts, over 13 walks, opponents hitting .225. But I think that that's the only thing that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't think too far down the road. You just got to take it, you know, one pitch, one at bat at a time. And you know, stranger things have happened. They just continue to play well and see what happens with the standings at the end of the year.
I think that's the difference between a young ball player and a older ball player. Is as a young ball player, we're like in a rush to get up to plate, hit, do everything we can. And as a veteran, you're like, okay, I know what I can do. Let me just sit back and watch.
And not try to do too much.
Right. Right. I mean, you look at as a NFL quarterback, it takes them a couple years. They're under fire, and all of a sudden the game slows down. It's the same thing here. You know, if you're 19, 20, 21, and you get caught up, it's still a little fast, you know. But for us, we have seen guys throwing 94, 95 in the minor leagues. So the adjustment as far as speed-wise doesn't take as long because we have seen those guys. You just don't see as many in high school.
That one guy that throws 94, you're like, I hope this ain't his day.
Lieber Torres is single in his first 2 at-bats. Coming into today's game, he had been on fire.
A quality pitch from Nick Vincent. His average fastball at 90 miles an hour, but he's still going to climb the ladder up out of the zone. Try to check his swing, but they'll ring him up. I think right now you look at the Yankees lineup, and Brett Gardner, who's hitting 9th, he will be the 3rd hitter in this inning. A left-hander, but for Nick, he may be able to face a number of guys which are right-handed hitters to use his cutter more to keep the ball down and away from them, try to keep them in the ballpark. Again, the Yankees scoring their runs on the home run. We saw it last night, a couple of 2-run home runs, and today the solo home runs. So trying to keep them in the ballpark is going to be key.
Yeah, cutter, that kind of a pitch. It's not really a strikeout, swing and miss kind of a pitch, more of a contact pitch that just gets off the barrel for the weak contact, and that's what Nick does so well.
There it is right there.
Yeah, just ask Edgar about a cutter.
Edgar, amazing to me. Didn't like the knuckleball, but on the cutter, I mean, Mariano Rivera, one of the best ever, and Edgar just wore him out. He couldn't get Edgar out. It is the most amazing thing, and I think more than anything, just because his ability to stay in the middle field. To your point, Junior, also not trying to do too much in situations where maybe some guys get way too excited. That was not the case with Edgar ever.
If you could slow it down and minimize the surroundings, you're going to be okay. I think that's the one thing that, you know, good players can do is go, okay, everything gets real quiet, and I'm going to go up there and take this one pitch and do what I can with it.
Slow your heartbeat. I think Edgar lifetime off of Mariano, maybe the truck can look this up for me. I believe it was well over 600 lifetime with damage, which is absolutely amazing.
Crazy.
I don't even want to know what I am against him.
Well, I did just see that little pop-up about you against the Yankees in the 1995 ALDS. 5 bombs.
Well, I was getting ready to have a baby. Trying to rush things out in 95.
Another elevated fastball, 91 miles an hour.
I think that is such an important pitch for any pitcher to be able to elevate that fastball so you can come back down, get that hitter's eyes up in the zone. So many times, especially when you're ahead in the count, those guys, it's just such a difficult pitch to lay off of.
Yeah, and I think there's a point at which it gets too high, though, right, Val? There's a point at which it becomes non-competitive. You throw it up there too high, and they don't have that inclination to go after it. It doesn't really do the same effect as if it's right at the top of the strike zone where they can't get to it, and then you bring it back down and you've got them. I mean, there's that fine gray area in there where you just can't go too high with it. You got to keep it right there at the top of the strike zone.
Being told by Curtis that Edgar's lifetime average against Mariano was 625.
This is driven out to right field. Gamble on his way back, but he's not going to be able to get to it. There's the elevated fastball, top of the zone away from him. He ends up going the other way.
Yankees again with their 12th home run against the Mariners here this season. And they're getting contributions from everybody in this lineup. Austin Romine, this is number 10 on the season.
8th pitch in the at-bat, and EQC Tracer had it right at the top of the zone. Primero Superbo in the swing. He's able to stay on top of it just enough to drive it into right field. 4 home runs so far in the series. A couple of home runs last night and now 2 here this evening to take the lead.
Good pitch there, outside corner, a little movement to it.
And again, a high fastball, top of the zone. That ground out back to Nick. That will turn the lineup over. Andrew McCutchen, his 4th plate appearance. He started the game with a home run, his 2nd for the Yankees.
Junior, you'll be pleased to know that your lifetime batting average against Mariano Rivera, probably the greatest reliever of all time, was a very representative 333 with a home run. Yes.
I would have never known that.
It's pretty good. Oh my gosh, yes.
Because he's almost tougher on lefties than he was righties, right? I mean, he was tough on everybody.
Well, he had that
But
little.
the cutter was tough for a
He had
lefty.
the get me over cutter. Then he had the I'm gonna get you cutter, and then he had the one that go sit your butt down.
Well, Nick Vincent gives up the solo home run but gets out of the inning. Unfortunately, the Mariners are down a run. We'll move to the bottom of the 7th inning. See if they get the bats going.
Washington's lottery. Go ahead, folks. Stretch it out. Well, Lance Lynn can hit the showers. Mariners right now trailing by 1. The New York Yankees. His day is done. He goes 6 innings. He allows the 2 runs. They were earned. Didn't walk anybody today. A couple strikeouts. Only gets to 76 pitches. This is the time of year, though, that skippers go to their bullpens early. Zach Britton is the next man up. And guys, what can you tell us about him?
A former closer for the Orioles and was one of the best in the business. He's had some injuries, but now he's with the Yankees. A 3.94 ERA, 25 strikeouts, 17 walks in the 32 innings that he has worked. Opponents hitting .230 against him. His average fastball at 95 miles an hour, an occasional slider. Basically, he's going to be down in the zone with a heavy sinker. Nelson Cruz will lead things off.
Yeah, I thought the pickup of Zach Britton was a great coup by the New York Yankees. Had that left-hander coming off an Achilles injury, but just a couple of years ago he was kind of Mariano-esque.
Yeah,
almost impossible to hit.
The Yankees have the shift on with Nelson hitting. He's 0 for 2.
Adeiny Echeverria now at shortstop.
The one thing about the shift is they're not going to play the shift and then not pound you in.
They're going to pitch.
They're going to pitch to the shift.
Yeah.
They don't want you to beat the shift.
Yeah.
So you're up in this situation and they got the shift on you. Are you sitting
Fast is going to be fastball in. You know, because they don't want you to flare one out there because it's soft and you just happen to get, you know, your butt out and just flare it over there.
So he basically, the first couple of pitches inside, then he's going to show you away, but he wants to try to get you out inside.
Now the 2-2, he's going to either slider or fastball in.
Alex Colomé getting loose for the Mariners. AQC Tracer had as a strike on the inside corner at 97 miles an hour.
Fastball in.
Right on the corner, too.
Good
Talk about
fastball.
pain.
Yeah, that's a good pitch.
Good velocity. Colomé.
Now he's going to come back with the fastball. Off the end of the bat.
Good crowd out here at Safeco Field with the New York Yankees here in town. Junior lefty on lefty right here. Heavy sinker, as we've seen from Britton. What would be your approach right here? Because you were one of the few lefties that I saw that I played with and played against that hit lefties really well.
Well, having a dad who's left-handed, so it helped a whole lot, because having a guy right-handed was the one that was confusing. But being able to keep that shoulder tucked in and staying there,
front shoulder,
the front shoulder, keep it locked in until you're ready to swing. Because sometimes as a lefty, the first thing you want to do, and you guys as righties, the same thing. A right-hander who drops down, first thing you want to do is move that shoulder out of the way to try to see it. Well, then everything goes from there. Just being able to keep it, staying in, and not think about pulling the ball, down the line. More so aim it at the root sign, or
right center.
Go at left center, the Seattle logo.
So by doing that, that would keep you on the ball.
Keep you stayed in there. Because if he throws it hard, you're going to hit it that way anyway. And if he takes a little bit off of it, you can still hit out the ballpark to right.
Well, somebody that's hit left-hander as well is Kyle Seager, and that includes this year. And this is an interesting matchup, to your point, Junior, because he's going to get a fastball to hit. It's probably going to be 95 with some sink to it. And Kyle is probably going to be inner half of the plate. And at this point, with a couple of outs, see if you can dial something up.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that the thing that Kyle does very well against lefties is keep that front shoulder. What Junior's talking about, he keeps the front shoulder in and stays on and through it.
And sometimes when you have a kid who's struggling, who is left-handed, and you have a lefty, you go in there and you keep him in. And you tell him, hey, I need to keep that shoulder in.
Right.
Because eventually he's going to get it and be like, okay, I got this.
Start Kyle off with a breaking ball for a strike. Now set up inside.
Pretty good location with that 96.
So did you find that sometimes when you face the lefty, it would actually help you kind of get back in gear because you were really focused on
keeping it in,
keeping that shoulder closed?
Yeah, that's the key to hitting, is make sure that you stay closed as long as possible. And that was one of the things that my dad was always talk to me about, is staying in, making sure that you stay in. Don't give up an at bat by flying off.
Why didn't you tell me that when we played together?
You were older than me.
Good breaking ball.
Nasty.
A pretty good inning for Zach Britton. 1-2-3 here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Hopping.
in the Box. This season, a Mariners double play means free Jumbo Jacks from Jack in the Box. By Money Tree, proud to make a donation to Mariners Care for every Mariners win. By CenturyLink, connecting you to the power of the digital world. And by BNSF Railway, sponsor of the BNSF Blast. Angie Bentink with you here at the Ford Sports Desk. And as we get to the back end of this game and those bullpen arms that are so good at the back end, I have a question for you guys. You think about the movie Ty Cobb, and he's asked, well, what would you hit against today's pitchers? And he says, oh, probably 290. He says, only 290? Really? You hit over 400 so many times. He says, well, I'm 72 years old. You know, that's why I would only hit 290. My question is, if you guys had to face the arms like Eddie Diaz, like Colomé, how do you think you would fare in your prime? Not when you were older.
Chance.
No chance.
Go ahead.
No comment.
You can talk now.
No, I'm no comment. I plead the fifth.
I think that it's tougher to hit today than it ever has been.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the funniest things I remember, Edgar, towards the end of his career, we were on the road somewhere. I was traveling with the team, and we got together for dinner afterwards, and he looked at me, he goes, Val, is it me, or is everyone who comes out of the bullpen throwing about 100 miles an hour? I said, no, everybody's throwing about 100.
Yeah, but I think, you know, with the board that shows it, you know, people turn around and look at it, and I think that's a little bit of a psyche. I don't think if you didn't have it, you're like, okay, I got to time this fastball up. Minor league fields didn't have it when we were playing.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
It all of a sudden became a visual of part of being at the turnaround guys throwing. You know the guys who throw hard. He throws 196, and everybody goes ooh, and then you look at the board, it's 96. And he's over there like, oh, I still got 3 more miles an hour. Let me throw one, and it comes in at 92, and you hit it out. You know, so I've really never really paid attention to the board of how hard guys throw. I was sitting there one day with Willie Mays, and he said, I'll time a bullet that comes to the zone if I see it enough. You know, if you just keep continuing to see it, it's like some, you know, the fans who go to batting cages talk about, it was 70 miles an hour, and all I could do was boom. I'm like, that's a changeup. You know, if you see it enough.
Your eyes aren't trained for it.
Right.
Right.
You know, so I think, you know, there are guys who threw that hard. We just didn't have the board for everybody to see it.
Well, we talked about, you know, the strikeouts earlier tonight. We were talking about how strikeouts are up with hitters, and the power numbers are up as well. But it's the strikeouts. To me, part of it is that the stuff is just better right now than it's ever been. I mean, these guys, I can remember Randy really at the time was one of the guys that could throw 95, but there weren't many other guys at that point. Now it seems like every bullpen has 3 or 4 guys that are throwing at least 95 to 100 miles an hour, and they have that other, you know, out pitch that they use, that slider or whatever. It is just they just have better stuff right now, and it would definitely, I think, be way more difficult.
You're seeing it right now with Colomé on the mound. Here is a guy that is an all-star. He has led the league in saves. He was throwing 95, 96 with a cutter slider out of the zone, 92 wipeout pitch to set things up for a guy that can throw 100 in Diaz.
Right.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, but it's just building up, though.
Just building up. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the start is at like 91, 92. It's just build up. You got to turn the fan on early.
David Robertson getting loose for the Yankees.
I mean, when you get in the car, you let it warm up first, right? You just don't jump in the car and take off. You got to think of it like that.
Although I'm going to have to disagree with you, Junior, because I remember one time we were out stretching in the outfield, and you were just sitting there kind of talking, having fun, and someone said to you, hey, you going to stretch? And you went, stretch? You ever seen a cheetah stretch before he goes in for the kill?
No. I did a lot of stretching at home.
That was a great line.
I do a lot of stretching at home. And I stretch even more now. Make sure everything goes right before I get out of bed. Before I put my feet down, I'm like, all right, hold on. You up? You good.
That was a great pitch by Colomé, just missing the inside corner. Hicks able to check his swing.
right there. But let me ask you a question. Would you rather have a guy throw hard, or would you rather have that guy that throws 90 to 92 with great command, good sinkage?
Like a Greg Maddux?
Yes. Who didn't throw but 84 and was 2 hours and 20-minute games.
That is a great fastball. EQC Tracer just had it off the corner. Too close to take as he picks up the strikeout at 96 miles an hour. Answer your question, Junior. I don't want 96 if it's located like that and I'm expected to hit it.
Well, hey,
that's a perfect pitch.
Yes, but nobody's looking at that. That's the one you take anyway. You just tip your hat.
Because you can't hit it, right?
Yeah, you just tip your hat and go on about your business. I mean, who was it that Randy struck out for the Angels? And he did the little...
Rex Hudler.
Rex Hudler.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Never forget that.
Yeah. He was like, okay. You
literally tipped his cap to him as he walked back to the dugout. I think the one that, you know, as any hitter, I think the one thing that the higher fastball velocity does is makes their secondary pitch that much better. And we talk about that a lot. Is secondary pitches are great, and if you can set them up better with a fastball, they're even better. And these guys throwing 100, throw that slider in there at 90, you got no chance.
Well, we're seeing it right there. It disappears at 92 miles an hour because his fastball is 96. And he started him with 96 on the inside corner, so it's going to speed him up. Straighten him up with the fastball and go right back to 92 off the plate. There it is.
Good pitch.
Strikes out the side. What a pitch. Throwing a lot of strikes, 96 miles an hour, and then that put-away pitch at 92. Good inning for column A.
Gets on, and then that guy right there, Mike Zunino, does this one more time. He is due up second this inning. 436 feet from home plate. That's where this one lands. 109-mile-per-hour exit velocity. StatCast AI, powered by AWS. Now, I got a couple of catchers downstairs, and I guess, Mike Flowers, if we consider your one inning, I got 3.
Hold on, what about my...
You never. Oh, that commercial, the cloning commercial. How could we ever forget? All right, how difficult is it, though, guys? I mean, Mike Flowers, you squatted for 1 inning. It's grueling. It's really difficult to do, and the abuse that your body has to take to be a catcher, and then to still go up there and do something as difficult as hitting. I mean, to be able to do both those things well is just incredible.
Well,
Amen.
Wilson. Me and Danny Wilson were just commiserating about how our knees have been feeling lately.
Yeah.
So, yes, you are absolutely correct on that. And this is the time of the year, you know, you come August,
Right.
you got 100 games under your belt, you got 110, 120. Legs are getting heavy, and boy, it makes it your ability to hit that much more difficult.
Yeah, you know, and we were talking earlier about how much more difficult it is to hit guys with stuff like this. It's also more difficult to catch guys with stuff like this, and it does wear on you a little bit more physically, a little bit more mentally. And you know, my hat's off to Big Z.
Kind of like that,
yeah,
right there.
Absolutely, and he does a good job of, you know, sticking through it all. It's tough, as you know, Val, and he does a great job. And he is so strong, Z is, and can really take it.
David Robertson taking over for the Yankees, another former closer. Cutter, slider, curveball is Cutter at 92 miles an hour. Well, Felix, we're being told, right hamstring tightness. So unfortunately, it isn't anything with his arm, which is great news.
But bad news for him, not hurting a hamstring at this point in the season. Hopefully they caught it quick enough
yeah.
that it wasn't pulled too much. Well, you're talking about David Robertson. It's, you know, kind of a situation where you're seeing that kind of the big teams, the big money market teams are adding guys, as the Mariners did Colomé, who is a quality closer, and he's handling the 8th inning. David Robertson, a former closer, quality closer. He's handling the 8th inning. Teams are so focused on building up bigger, stronger bullpens to kind of shorten that game for the starters.
The A's just did that too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, when they were making the run, they weren't looking to add as starters. They just kept building more bullpen, make that bullpen that much stronger.
And we've seen a lot of that over the last few years in the postseason. Those teams that are making the run, it's all about the pitching, and they're going to add to it when they can.
Nice little take there.
Yeah, it's a battle for Ben. 93 miles an hour off the outside corner after a number of cutters in on his hands. 7 pitches so far in the at-bat.
Like Sonny Gray down in the Yankee bullpen getting loose.
Former starter Ryan Cook getting loose for the Mariners.
Good AB right here for Ben.
This will be the 10th pitch in this at bat.
Surprise there. Continued with the breaking ball. Thought we'd see that sinker that he likes to run off that plate, but stayed with the breaking ball, and Ben fouled it off.
Kind of going back to the beginning of the game, Junior. This is a kind of at bat right here, right? It's the bottom of the 8th. Nobody out. Lead off hitter. You need somebody on. You can't just sit back and keep taking those big swings. He's fouling off some tough pitches.
They're quality pitches too. They are at the bottom of the strike zone, moving down, typically inside on them. Borderline pitches on the corner.
You see the whole at bat. They get ahead with that first pitch, sort of middle of the plate, and then it's go to work on the corners and at the bottom of the zone the entire time. And Ben just doing a great job of spoiling this AB, and it would be great to get him on base right here.
Robertson saying, "Man, what do I got to do to get this guy out here?"
Back to the 2-seamer you were talking about, Danny.
Yep.
There's Mike Harkey out there in the Yankee bullpen. We go all the way back to 1979. Mariners are sitting there thinking at the draft day.
Oh no, 79. I'm sorry.
That's 87, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. My bad.
Ooh, 79.
19. Do we pick Mike Harkey or do we go with this young kid named Ken Griffey Jr.? History was made. History was changed for the Seattle Mariners and for the city of Seattle as we're sitting here in Safeco Field.
Well, you have a guy like, you know, I tell my kids, everybody had somebody that fought for them. You know, in every job opportunity, there's a guy who took a chance. And
who was that for you?
Roger. He basically said, you know, hey, I want this kid.
Yeah, as far as the
Roger
organization,
Roger Youngworth said, I want this kid.
Yeah.
And that's
the organization was kind of split at the time too. It wasn't now it looks like an easy choice, but at the time it was difficult for him.
A college pitcher or a high school center fielder. And you know, they also gave me the opportunity. It was funny, they talked to my parents, and my dad walked in. He goes, hey, you know, they want to make you #1, but you could say no and go somewhere else. And you could say no all the way up to #7. I think #7 was Atlanta, might have been, or Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was 2 or 3. He said, but you can say no. And I said, no, I want to go #1. And I was real adamant about going #1. He was like, well, a team may offer you more money. And I was like, it's not about the money. I want to go #1. And that's, he made the call. And that's the next day they had the press conference at the house. But Roger Youngworth was the one who fought for me.
And it ended up with your number out there on the wall out above the pen area here at Safeco Fields. What does that mean to you when you see that number out there? I know it's been a couple years since it's been retired.
It's the most humbling thing that as an athlete to you come in there and you go, wow. Now I don't get, like, I get shook up about it because it's one of those things where it's the greatest feeling as a player, but you don't want to be that guy that beats on his chest. And you guys know me, that I'm not the guy that's going to sit there and rah-rah you to death. And I'm not going to be the guy that training day, King Kong ain't got on me. You know, I'm going to go out there and give you what I have. And you play long enough, certain things are going to happen in your life that people are going to reward you with. And that was one of them. Was it a shock? Yes, because, you know, somebody has to mention it to other people for it to happen. It just doesn't happen. And it's not owed to you. Nothing is owed to you in anything. And, you know, for the people of Seattle and the organization to do this, it's one of the things that I'm grateful. And and to be sitting next to, you know, Jackie Robinson, that number is pretty cool.
Well, the bullpen's really pitching well. We just saw Colomé strike out the side, and now it's Robertson doing the same thing in the bottom of the 8th.
at a lower price for $25.99. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live or on demand. Your subscription includes MLB At-Bat Premium, allowing you to watch live baseball on your favorite supported devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv to take advantage of this special offer. Hey, moments ago, Ryan Cook finishing up his warm-up tosses out in the bullpen, making his way onto the field, and now a live look at Mr. Ryan Cook as he wakes his way to the mound. And more warm-up tosses. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Angie. And for Ryan Cook, 13 appearances on the year, 5.5 ERA, 18 strikeouts, and 11 1/3. Opponents hitting just .214 against him. His average fastball at 95 miles an hour and a slider. Miguel Andujar will lead off for the Yankees. Andujar 2 for 3, a couple of singles.
Looks like he got him right in that right forearm.
It's a two-seamer here from Cook that just kind of keeps running. Andujar starts his swing and then tries to get out of the way of it. But yeah, look, you're right, Val. Got that right forearm.
He will come out of the game. Tyler Wade going to pinch run for him.
He didn't even give him no chance to even try to shake that off. Come on in here. Protect the investment.
That was quick. Yeah, that was quick. Andujar having a tremendous year. 298. 23 home runs. Him and his teammate Torres will be fighting for that Rookie of the Year award.
First plate appearance for Echeverria. Took over at shortstop for Gregorius. Featherweight will take off in a line drive just over the head of D. Solid line drive, base hit. Ryan Cook, he's barely loose, in some trouble. He is well positioned. It's a line drive with the runner moving, and it's just out of his reach. First and third, nobody out.
It's hard to tell if that was a hit and run or if that was just the approach of Echeverria trying to drive that ball to the right side.
Activity in the Mariner bullpen. Chasing Bradford. Zach Duke getting loose. Thinking like a catcher here, Val. Situation where you need that punch out here, and that sets up then when you get the first out, then you're looking for that double play. You're kind of always thinking ahead here, and Ryan Cook could really use a punch out right here of Torres, but he's a tough customer.
He is. That last pitch was a little hanging slider that he was able to foul back, and that's the location right there that you're looking for.
He's got him now 0-2, right where he wants to be.
Now's when you're thinking about how can I strike him out. I don't want to have him allow them to put the ball in play.
Right.
Do I try to set him up, maybe run one up and in, something off the plate, get him to try to chase. Too good a pitch. 0-2.
Little slider, it stayed up. Thankfully went out of play.
Now, as catchers, do you believe in wasting a pitch? Not really wasting a pitch.
Setting it up.
Setting up something else.
Like you used to set
Absolutely.
up pitchers.
Yeah,
We were trying to set you up.
Yeah, for me, I never, that pitch up and in, try to back me off. It's a ball. That's how I thought. Like, okay, all right, what's the next pitch? I never really went up there talking about, oh, he's going to waste one. You know, when you get 0-2 and back in the day, oh, we got to waste a pitch. No, not really. If you got a guy and he's hanging on by a thread, he's not gonna take that big old cut. He's gonna try to keep it in play. So he's gonna be a little more defensive than you know, say the count was 1-1.
Right. I think waste is a bad choice of words.
Purpose.
I think the purpose pitch is maybe a better way to say it, to set something else up. A fly ball to right. Wade will tag and score. Yankees lead 4-2.
Really just taking a look at that just that whole sequence, right? Once you get him an 0-2, you don't have to throw a strike, right? So in that situation, he's clearly going, I'm going to go slider against him. You've got to throw one in the dirt. You've got to try to get him to chase outside of the strike zone.
Ideally, you want that pitch that starts out of his hand, it's in the zone, but as it gets to home plate, then goes out of the zone. That's ideally the pitch you're looking for.
And I know you, having watched you play for so many years, you tapped your gun just as a reminder, hey, bounce one, like, make sure you get it down, stay down.
There are several nonverbals that catchers get to use, one of which is firing it back to the pitcher when you want his attention.
With a little authority.
Yeah, with a little authority.
That was one run that you just did not want to give to the Yankees here, that insurance right here in the top.
Yeah, especially with Dylan Betances getting loose in the pen for him, hard throwing right-hander. Gardner, the left-hander, waiting on deck, and Zach Duke is getting loose in the pen for the Mariners.
Not a whole lot Mike Zunino could do right there. Echeverria with a tremendous jump.
Maybe pick up the strikeout. It's more what you were talking about that pitch off the plate away and gets him to chase the breaking ball.
Now, and I know we got Junior here in the booth. Junior very rarely chased those pitches with 2 strikes. Him and Edgar, I was always amazed at how quiet they could be with 2 strikes. Where
they weren't in panic mode like you and me.
Most are exactly like, you know, you start getting down that front foot.
We're always in panic mode.
We'll take a break.
Pregame show every Sunday to find out your fan favorite plays of the week. Plus, each month, one lucky fan will win a Coors Light Yeti cooler just for participating. For all the official rules, visit rootsports.com. Zach Duke is the next one to climb the hill, and he has the distinction of being one of 3 active pitchers with 150 or more relief appearances and also 150 or more starts in his career. Guys.
Thank you, Angie. 62 appearances on the year, a 4.37 ERA. Opponent sitting 285. He's given up just the 1 home run this year. His fastball will be 88 miles an hour with a sweeping slider.
That's the guy right there. Sweeping slider.
Tony Facet.
See, why are you going to bring that name up?
No, I need to bring this thing because I was actually thinking about this driving in today, thinking about us being in the booth and just different stories. So I signed with the Boston Red Sox, right, 1994. Yep. And we're playing you guys. And Junior's up, and Tony Facet comes in, the mechanic. So he's on my team. And to this day, it was the only time I ever heard the bat come through the strike zone and you took him deep. It was the only time I think you took him deep.
Yeah, one time.
It was at Fenway Park.
Yep.
And I still remember hearing the whoosh of the bat come through. I was like, oh my God.
Because I think I was like 2 for 29.
And I stayed in the big league just because he got you out.
And one of those 2 hits was a bunt.
Yeah.
I've never seen him bunt for a hit, and Junior drops down a perfect bunt off of him and can walk to first base.
I'm going to tell you what happened.
And he said, I couldn't hit him anyway.
No, Lou comes up to me right before the bat and goes, son, just bunt. Just bunt. You can't hit him. Now, it wasn't like I struck out. I just hit.
Soft contact.
No, I just hit it right at people. You know, like Wade, I hit one. We had a 3-game series. I hit 2 times. Wade was sitting there like, boom, I got you. And he just started laughing. The second time, he just started laughing. I'm like, and Lou just, bunt. You can't hit him. Just bunt. So I laid it down.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Sometimes you got
to give in.
Right. You just got to surrender.
Even you.
Yeah. I was just doing what the manager told me. And then Lou walks out of the dugout and takes his hat off and goes, you know how he always does.
Yeah.
See, I told you. And put his hat back on.
A couple of good breaking balls, gets him to chase it. And that will end the inning. Mariners do some damage to Dylan Betances, who will be coming in the game. Tough right-hander, but they need a couple of runs.
Every Sunday for a new episode of Mariners All Access. Get exclusive player interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, and Mariners stories that you can't find anywhere else. And if you missed tomorrow's episode, tune in for re-airs throughout the week on Root Sports. For your local programming schedule, visit rootsports.com. And speaking of tomorrow, it will be Erasmo Ramirez on the bump for Seattle, going up against CC Sabathia. He's after his 8th win of the season. Rasmo trying to get to even on the season. Hey guys, one more note about the Mariners All Access tomorrow. It's really cool. I go into the cages with third base coach Scott Brocious, and we almost dedicate the entire episode to hitting. I mean, from stance to swing to contact points to being on time for the fastball, getting that foot down, to being able to separate your hands and be able to hit the breaking ball. So if you got a little one, it's a pretty cool show to DVR.
Yeah, a lot of information. Dylan Betances is going to take over. 57 appearances, a 2.5 ERA, 101 strikeouts, and 57 2/3. Opponents hitting just 168. His average fastball this year, 98 miles an hour. Slider, curve. Top of the order, Mitch Haniger will lead things off.
Scott Brocious, MVP, World Series MVP, 96 with the Yankees. Is that right?
I'm trying to remember. I think so, yes, because they were playing the Padres. I don't know if it was 96. But I remember seeing, I have a picture of Bro celebrating down in San Diego.
Quickly ahead of Haniger.
Betances, a big part of the Yankee bullpen. Kind of a three-headed monster down there where they got Chapman has been on the disabled list.
He's driven to right field, has a chance to get down for extra bases, and he will. So a good start for the Mariners. Haniger again leading off, picks up the double to get things started.
Mitch done a nice job in the leadoff role for the Mariners. It's a fastball, middle of the plate. Gets the barrel to it down that right field line. Stays inside of it really nicely. And the Mariners have something brewing here in the 9th.
That's a great two-strike approach right there.
Takes advantage of a fastball in the middle of the plate.
Didn't try to do too much.
The thing with Betances is he has great stuff. Mentioned the 98-mile-an-hour fastball, tremendous slider and curveball to go with it, but he can get wild at times. Be aware of that. There's 98 just off the outside corner, but a pretty good swing from Gene on it, fouling it straight back.
The well-located slider right there, right on that outside corner, clearly trying to stay away from Gene Segura.
Well, I think if
home runs.
you look where the center fielder is, that's where they're going to pitch him. And you know they're not going to pitch him the pull with the center fielder being that far over.
And for me, Junior, last inning, you got a lead here of 2 runs. You typically are not going to try to make a mistake on the inside part of the plate. If you're going to beat me, you got to beat me away. You're going to try to make quality pitches, whether it's a slider like that last pitch or the good hard fastball down and away.
So if he pitches in, it's to show something in there and go right back away again.
Yeah, if you come in, I don't want to come in for a strike, because then I think it was Ted Williams who said that baseball history is made from the middle in. And that's you don't want to make a mistake at this point in the game on the inner half of the plate.
It's one of the first things I was taught in professional baseball.
He hit him right in the foot with a slider.
Robbie really reacts late to this pitch.
He's got the.
I think you know, typically we've seen Robbie just like, hey, I'm going to take this first
one. That's exactly what happened, Dave. You're right.
He relaxed.
Got the back foot.
Oh, might have got right on that big knuckle on the big toe. That'd have hurt.
And he's going to come out of the ball game.
That is not good for the Mariners right there.
That right there hurts. That and the elbow. Top of the foot.
Yeah, 85-mile-an-hour slider biting down and in on you and hits him right. And you're right, though. You could see it that he was just relaxed. He was going to take the pitch all the way, and unfortunately, it was thrown at him and ended up hitting him. And that will bring Nelson Cruz to the plate.
Well, let's just go for the walk-off right next.
There you go. I like the call.
Guess if you're going to have the guy, this is your guy right here, boomstick.
34 home runs on the year, 85 RBIs, 5 career walk-off home runs.
I was going to say earlier, Val, one of the first lessons you learn in pro ball is don't get beat inside late. A little tougher with a guy like Nelson Cruz who can leave any part of the ballpark. Yeah, you can challenge him a way to hit you out the other way, but he can hit you out the other way.
Absolutely. Very good hitter. Hits the ball foul line to foul line. Take a look at the Yankee outfield. They're playing him pretty almost shaded to right. Center fielder's shading him to right center. Right fielder's playing straight up.
All of them just in front of the warning track.
No doubles.
Very good point right there. All of them playing way back.
Still continuing a steady diet away.
You could just look at the center fielder and tell you how they're going to pitch.
Sweeping breaking ball off the outside corner. Great count for him. See if he wants to challenge him or not.
You can see Austin Romine doing whatever he can to pull that slider back onto the plate to try to get the call.
Denard Span waiting on deck. Numbers for Nelson in the 3-1 count this year, 375 average. Back with the breaking ball.
Little hanging breaking ball right there.
3-1 breaking ball.
My guess is, you're going to throw a 3-1.
Throw it in.
Obviously a 3-2.
I've got to come with number 1.
Try to paint it on the outside.
Yeah.
And he missed with it. 98 off the plate.
As you mentioned, Blow, he does have the propensity to get a little wild. A lot of those pitches, I know he's trying to pitch them carefully, but that slider had a little bit more sweep to it than he typically throws.
Larry Rothschild out to have a discussion with Mr. Betances.
Well, that's a great situation for the Mariners if you think about it. With Betances, he can't get wild. He's hit a batter. He has a walk, and probably one of the more patient hitters in Denard Span. He's going to zone him up in the middle of the plate and make him work on this at bat. So it's a pretty good situation overall. Romine will come out and run for Cruz.
You think this might be that one spot where Denard goes up there saying, okay, he's been a little wild, hasn't thrown his slider for a strike. Maybe he's going to come after me with that first pitch fastball.
And we've seen that from him, and we've seen him hit it out of the ballpark doing that. But I think, again, he's going to zone up in the middle of the plate. I don't think he'll necessarily swing just to swing at it because it is a fastball. But you're right about that, Val. There's an opportunity for him there, especially in this situation with the bases loaded.
He does not want to fall behind right here against Denard.
Edwin Diaz getting loose in the Mariner pen just in case.
There's Denard taking control of the at-bat right there. Timeout. Let me guess that.
Looking for his first career grand slam. Starts him with the breaking ball for a strike.
Taken all the way right there. Yep. Junior, as you were saying before, slow that heartbeat.
I might have swung at that one. That's just me. I can't speak for the rest of the guys in this, but a get me over slider.
I'm right-handed. I'm taking all the way.
Right. That's just me.
Chances has been tough with the bases loaded. Opponent sitting only 104 lifetime.
Good hard fastball in there. 97 miles an hour. Well located, well off the plate in there. That really sets up anything away now. But to your point, Val, he's looking heater. He got the heater. It was just off the plate inside.
And was still able to get the bat to the ball there, too.
Yeah.
That pitch was a couple of inches inside. What do you think? Slider right here?
Back door, maybe. They might chase him further in.
Junior.
Slider. And
Did you hit off the fastball all the time, or did you sometimes just sit off speed?
it depends on who was throwing. And if I knew he couldn't throw a fastball by me at any point, then I would sit and just slide over my sights to where I wanted to hit it.
Everything inside. He's seen the one fastball that was in off the plate that he fouled off, but a lot of breaking balls to him. That's what at 87 miles an hour.
Again, another quality at bat by Denard Span, fighting off some tough pitches.
In.
Everything in.
Yeah.
At some point, he might try to freeze him away with that heater. We've seen it at 97. He went in with it.
Yep, hit it off of his foot. It's interesting in this inning too. It seems that he's just stayed glove side the entire time. To the righties and the lefties, just stayed on that one side of the plate. And part of it is because he has that sweeping breaking ball, and that's where it's probably going to end up. He's even throwing the heater on that side of the plate to the left-hander. One last pitch was a strike. He was right on the corner. Kyle Seager is on deck. Back inside again with 98 miles an hour to get the strikeout.
A little more elevation on that one was the difference. Denard able to make contact, but fouled it into the catcher's glove. But you can see the elevation up about bell high, and that's a tough pitch for a lefty.
It'll be up to Kyle Seager. Kyle is 1 for 3 tonight. Had a base hit into center field.
Not all lefties.
You catchers always trying to figure us lefties out. All we just trying to do is slap the ball around. We're not trying to do too much damage.
Well, let's see if Kyle can just slap that ball around right here.
Well, there you go, Junior. Hanging breaking ball in the middle of the plate.
See it. You got to.
They fired on it.
Yeah. You're not trying to get to too many pitches of where he can control the at bat.
Right.
That little get me over curveball, slider, you know, the ones that they ain't think that you're going to take. You know, the catchers back there that just right here.
Just get ahead.
Yeah.
We'll see where he goes now.
Double in the gap.
That ball had some bite right there.
That might have been his best breaking ball of the night right there.
Yes.
Really sharp. You can see the late movement. It's in the strike zone almost the entire way, and then just sharply out of the strike zone.
The difference with that one, it was almost a 12-6 movement as opposed to
more of the slider movement. Right. He's got some good depth. We talk about depth. That's what you're alluding to, Val, and depth in the breaking ball, which talks about more of the up and down. He's got a good bite and good depth to his slider tonight.
It's interesting. We mentioned the 98, but his curveball this year is 87 and his slider at 84.
So those are curveballs.
Yeah, that's the curveball. there's another one. So Betances will pick up the save. And unfortunately for the Mariners, just been 2 runs over the first 2 games of this series. Have to find a way to get some offense going, guys. It's been difficult the first 2 days of this series.
Yeah, for the Mariners, as difficult it has been, you just were looking for that one guy, that one opportunity in a situation like that to kind of break things open.
Big Zunino home run and not able to get too much more going. Hopefully tomorrow they can come out here and swing the bat.
Yeah, it'll be CC Sabathia on the mound, who's pitched well this year, 3.5 ERA. Dan, good to have you here in the booth. I'll see you tomorrow. Val, take the rest of the evening off.
Thank you,
Junior,
sir.
thanks for showing up here in town.
I'm doing the post game.
Oh, you are? Good
Yes.
for you. Okay. Junior, always a pleasure to see you. He's definitely taking off.
No, wait a minute. You know, I may show up tomorrow.
Take it back to Brad and Ryan.
All right, guys, thank you. I'm kind of surprised Junior lasted all 9 innings, but glad he did that. A great players cast once again. Unfortunately, not a great ending to this one. And the kind of difference a couple of months make, I guess, back in June, you're thinking Mariners score 3 and win this game.
Yeah.
The way it's going now,
Yeah.
they strike out 3 times, leave the bases loaded, right?
Yeah, especially when you see Dylan Betances, who can really struggle with that command. And you get to some tight spots, but able to figure it out. And Kyle Seager, some of the nastiest sliders he's thrown all year, a ton of bite to those pitches. Figured out that last at bat, and unfortunately the Mariners just couldn't get anything quite over the line that last inning.
Yeah, 3 hits last night, 4 hits tonight, 2 runs total in the 2 games. We'll go right to your local Ford keys of the game. The key was offense and scoring runs.
Yeah, score a bunch against a guy, Lance Lynn, who had a really struggled his last time out against the Detroit Tigers. But look, he was good tonight. Now look, the strikeout numbers are usually up for Lance Lynn. Leading the big leagues since joining the Yankees in those strikeout numbers. But this is the good sign right here. You think the Mariners are in business because Mike Zunino taking Lance Lynn deep. He does not give up long balls too often, especially since putting on pinstripes. The Mariners, the plan was to try and jump out early, ambush a little bit, get to him early. A lot of fastballs. They're going to see a lot of fastballs. That's what Lance Lynn does, but able to start falling into that groove. 6 strong innings. He was tough tonight.
Coming in with an earned average over 5, but getting it done just 2 earned runs through 6. A quality start and a winning start for Lance Lynn, and the Yankees take the series. They take the game by a score of 4-2. We saw Cano go out in the 9th inning after getting hit in the foot. We saw Felix Hernandez go out in the 5th. Tight right hamstring. We'll hopefully hear from the skipper or Felix himself about his hammy, kind of what happened to him. Felix pretty good up until that 5th inning. Only allows the 2 runs. He gets a no decision in his 23rd career start against the Yankees. We're back with injury updates and more on Mariners Postgame presented by Alaska Airlines.